Hello, my name is Vaikuntan Rajaratnam, and this is my presentation on the research design for 3 questions as part of my HPES 7013 module. For the first question, what are the perception of teachers and learners about the use of mobile learning in medical education in Singapore? For this question, a cross-sectional study will be performed. The justification for this cross-sectional study is that it provides a clear snapshot of the population in the study to analyze the perception of the existing healthcare faculty and student population on the use of mobile learning. It will collect data at one particular point concerning this subject. The population is purposely selected based on the current healthcare faculty and student population involved in medical or nursing education. It is a very convenient way of performing, of obtaining data through a survey, and therefore relatively inexpensive and not laborious. The limitations of this cross-sectional studies are that they are static and time-bound, and the data is based upon the time in which the survey was conducted, and it's difficult to establish cause and effect relationships with the use of this study, but it provides a snapshot of the analysis, and there will be difficulty in providing follow-up findings as the result of the survey. The way to overcome the limitation is to do a qualitative sequential component in a mixed method, as is done in the next question, and the use of the original population as a focus group to resurvey them, or using a Delphi process with the focus group to obtain more qualitative findings about the research question. The results from this cross-sectional study can be presented in the form of various statistical formats. Namely, the descriptive statistic is to measure the perceptions of the population using the average, mean, median, and mode, and to measure the spread in terms of the standard deviation, range, and variance, and the frequencies help to quantify the results of the survey. In addition to the descriptive statistics, inferential or parametric statistics can be performed, assuming that the distribution is a normal type and the observance are independent. Pearson's R correlation can be used to test the relationship between the two continuous variables, and to also obtain multiple regression to test the relationship between multiple variables and one continuous outcome variable. Independent t-tests can be used to present the data and to test the difference between two groups on a single or a continuous dependent variable using p-values, mean difference, standard deviations, and confidence intervals. Therefore, using these parametric statistics, it will be possible to determine a relationship between variables from the survey that is statistically significant. For example, there may be a strong relationship between the perception of the usefulness of mobile education among students as compared to faculty members that is statistically significant. The figurative representation for this data can be in the use of bar charts, frequency, and pie charts. For the second research question, what do the teachers and learners of medical education consider as critical success factors for mobile learning adoption into medical education in Singapore? For this question, the research design will be a mixed method design. The justification for this is that it can utilize the data from the previous question that we have asked, which is a cross-sectional survey, while at the same time generating and testing a grounded theory approach to describe and explain the perception of mobile education as obtained from the first question. The narrative information from the qualitative component can add meaning to the numerical data obtained from the quantitative component, which would be the first question, while the numerical data can add precision to the qualitative component in this mixed method. In the mixed method, an examination of real-life contextual understanding of the healthcare faculty and students, and this multi-level perspective and cultural influences can provide a wealth and richness in the data. The mixed method has an intentional application of rigorous quantitative research that assesses the magnitude and frequency of perception and critical success factors in mobile education, and the rigorous qualitative research component will explore the meaning and understanding of these constructs among the population. It draws the strengths of both the quantitative and qualitative data gathering techniques, and therefore formulates a very more holistic interpretive framework for generating critical success factors and strategies to facilitate the adoption of mobile medical education in Singapore. The limitations of a mixed method study is that one requires the proficiency in applying multiple methods to investigate the research problem. There is a likelihood of conflicting results or ambiguous findings that can come out of the study that can inhibit drawing of a valid conclusion or setting forth a recommended strategy to solve the research problem. Reporting the finding requires a well-organized narrative and clear writing style and word choice, and this can be challenging. It also requires the collaboration among experts in the use of mixed method studies and also especially in qualitative research analysis. The third problem that can arise is the sample size for the both methods to be comparable, and the consistency in applying the unit of analysis. In the sequential design, there will be challenges in the decision about what results from the first phase to be used in the second phase, and the choice of samples and the estimation of the sample size for both phases. The interpretation of the results from both phases can also be challenging. And due to the multiple forms of data, that is both numerical and textual data, this design requires extensive time and resources both for data collection and data interpretation. Strategies that can be used to overcome the limitation is to be trained in the mixed methods, and the researcher will have to be trained, and collaborating with experts both in the use of mixed methods and especially qualitative research, and the use of available software in performing coding and theming of the qualitative component, and the use of statisticians who are familiar in the analysis of qualitative data. And this can also be overcome, especially in the reporting of these data from the mixed method research, is to have deliberate practice of writing and critiquing qualitative data analysis, and to improve the quality of results reporting. The quantitative component of the mixed method studies will use the same form of reporting as the first question, which is purely quantitative, the survey, with the use of descriptive statistics and the parametric statistics to distinguish, to determine the relationships between the various variables and the variance and the spread. As for the qualitative research, with the representing the data can be more challenging. The qualitative component data can represent individual mutually exclusive categories. Coding and textual analysis will be the mainstay for the thematic content analysis, and this requires training, and the data can be then used to draw inferences. Narrative and descriptive reporting with the use of key findings under each main theme or category, using appropriate verbatim quotes from the qualitative research, can help to illustrate these findings. The use of some software to analyze the qualitative textual data can help in the coding and thematic analysis of the qualitative data. The third question is the effectiveness of an open online course for mobile learning among medical educators in Singapore. For this question, the creation of an open online course using various programs that have been available for increasing the competencies of faculty and students on mobile learning will be used as the instrument to change the behavior of the faculty. So the design would use a causal method. The justification for this is that with this method, it will be able to identify reasons behind a change in faculty behavior in the adoption of mobile education into practice in Singapore. The advantages again will be that it can be easily replicated in other geographical areas. And this study design allows for greater levels of internal validity due to the systematic selection of subjects and equity of groups being compared. In other words, we will choose the faculty who would have been exposed to the open online course and then select specific outcomes to measure to show that there's been a change in the behavior as a result of the open online course as compared to another group who does not have access to this open online course. The limitation of the causal study design will be that not all relationships are causal, and the possibility of sheer coincidence, which will be difficult to identify. And the conclusions about causal relationships are difficult to determine due to confounding variables that may exist. This finally implies that the causality can only be inferred and never proven. And if two variables are correlated, the cause must come before the effect. That means the open online cause, which is the independent variable, must be available before the outcome is measured. However, even though two variables might causally be related, it can sometimes be difficult to determine which variable comes first, or therefore to establish which variable is actual cause of the actual effect. This limitation can be overcome by then performing a validation using qualitative analysis with the use of focus group on the two groups, those that are exposed to the open online program and those that are not. And one can also use a survey with the semi-structured interviews to obtain triangulation of the fact that the open online course was the cause for the change in behavior. The information that's obtained from this causal study can be presented with the standard statistical tests for group differences, which includes t-tests, student t-tests, and looking at the variance using standard deviation and the confidence interval. But to specifically analyze the causal effect of the independent variable upon the dependent variables, a regression analysis can be used, and this will be a simple linear regression model using scatter graph and linear regression line can help to show a causal relationship between the independent variable and the dependent variable.